But we used to discuss this in the shock, in the war room. The study was underway. What was it about? What happened? Well, it appears that on the morning of the 2nd of February, 1961, World War III almost began. And it was involved in the flyover of large numbers of circular metallic craft flying in formations, very obviously under intelligent control. And they would fly out of the Soviet sector in the Warsaw Pact toward the west in formation at a high rate of speed, at a very high altitude. And they would turn north over the English Channel, over the southern coast of England, and then they would disappear off of NATO radar over the Norwegian Sea. On that morning of 2nd February 1961, World War III almost began. The Soviets went on red alert. The NATO forces went on red alert. Everybody was, fingers on their triggers, thumbs poised above those red buttons. And World War III was just moments away. Within 20 minutes, it was all over. The objects flew, turned north, disappeared off radar. It was all over. After this event occurred, a British Air Marshal by the name of Sir Thomas Pike, who was the Deputy Supreme Allied Commander in Europe at that time. He was the deputy to my boss, General Lyman Lemnitzer, an American four-star general who was known as SACEUR, Supreme Allied Commander in Europe. Air Marshal Pike says, "I've had enough of this." These objects had been showing up regularly from time to time. And as I said, they almost triggered a war. Air Marshal Pike said, "We're going to have to come to terms and find out what the hell is going on here. I want to know." So he began a study. He initiated a study in SHAPE headquarters that was to last 3 years. They published it and they issued it in the summer of 1964 while I was there working in the war room. They titled it an assessment, an evaluation of a possible military threat to Allied forces in Europe. It's all it had, front on title, just couldn't learn very much about that. An assessment, an evaluation of a possible military threat to Allied forces in Europe. I was working in the war room one early morning around 2 or 3 o'clock, and as I jokingly used to refer to it, the coffee was too black to drink. We'd read all the newspapers, magazines. Many of you have heard military life is about 99% boredom, broken up with 1% of sheer terror. And that's the way it used to be, and that's the way it probably is even today. I'm sitting there and nodding off, and this American Air Force full colonel looked at me and he says, "Wake up." He went over to the vault. The vault, in shock, was a walk-in safe. He opened the door and walked in, and we kept classified documents in there. The colonel went over to the file and pulled out this document and threw it on my desk, and he says, "Read that. That'll wake you up." Ladies and gentlemen, my life changed. I opened the first page, and I couldn't put it down. I read and read and read, and I read it every time I was on duty in the war room. I was shocked, I was stunned by the implications of what I read in that study. And as I said, my life has never been ever quite the same. The study, briefly, and I have to briefly lay this out. I get talked to for 2 hours about this, but the study simply concluded this. Is there a threat to Allied forces in Europe? Apparently not. They concluded that the planet Earth and the human race had been under some kind of survey or observation going on for hundreds, if not thousands of years. They concluded in 1964 that there were at least 4 different groups coming here, observing us, surveying us, analyzing us, closely watching us, what we were up to, what we were doing. They concluded that there did not appear to be a military threat involved because the repeated demonstrations of incredibly advanced technology demonstrated to us that if they had been hostile or malevolent, there was absolutely nothing we could do. If they were evil in their intent and they were hostile toward us, it would have been over long time ago. So, the conclusion was there were 4 different groups involved. They had been coming here for a very, very long time. Apparently, they were not malevolent or hostile. The question was, what the hell are they doing here? Why are they here? And why are they interested in us? Well, they did not know in 1964 what their agenda or their motives were, and I will tell you honestly and frankly that even today, our authorities, our senior military, our national security people, still don't totally grasp what their motives are, what their agendas are. Well, this study in 1964 was simply a beginning for me. As I said, I was never quite be the same again. As I jokingly say, I used to be a normal human being. And after I read that study and launched on my 45 years of research, I lost all aspects of normality. I will be frank and tell you that over the years of my study and the material that I've learned and gathered has brought about in me a complete destruction of my old world view, my old world paradigm, the world view that I held since I was a kid, growing up. Everything made sense, I knew why we were here, where we were going, what was taking place. After I spent 45 years on this, it all collapsed around my knees. That was the destructive aspect of my personality. That was the part that changed me completely from the kind of human being that I had been before and to the kind of human being I am today. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm totally alienated. No pun intended. I've said in a couple of interviews and briefings and such, I have had for many, many years, a love-hate relationship with the human race. One moment I love you, the next minute I hate your guts. One minute I adore you for your potential and the beauty of your music and your literature and your art, and the next minute I'm saying, to hell with all of you, blow them up, let them blow themselves up, clean the planet off, get rid of them. It's part of the struggle of having lost your old world view when your old paradigm collapses around your knees. So the man standing in front of you here today is literally a human wreck as compared to what I used to be. But I feel pretty good about it. I lost all my old illusions. I opened my eyes and I saw the future. And I'm very happy about what I've seen.